Hey, it's me, Bob Dre, and this is my review of Sony's E3 press conference. Uh, I'm going to talk about most of the games in order of appearance at the press conference, but before I get started in the actual press conference, there is one game I want to announce that they uh, showed off beforehand, and that's Undertale is getting a physical copy for the PlayStation 4. It does have a collector edition where you get the socket, and I'm surprised it didn't show that in the actual conference itself. I think that would have gotten the biggest action not only at the press conference but at E3 in general, maybe even more than the Metroid Prime 4 reactions. And trust me, I get to that once I get to Nintendo. But, right now, let's talk about the first game that announced is that Uncharted Lost Legacy. They show off a new trailer. I don't think they have a release date, but I'm assuming it's coming out this holiday. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what is coming out this holiday, I know for sure, is Horizon Zero Dawn DLC. It's just like an expression of the story. Uh, though I don't have the game or PS4 in general, I heard lots of good things about that game. And if you like open world adventure, like Skyrim or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I'm sure, Horizon would be up your alley. Next is Days Gone. Uh, they show off a lot of gameplay for it. To me, it looks like it plays like the Last of Us and Uncharted. Like, you cover in place, sometimes you do like stealth moves. And I guess if you're into those games, it's fine, but I guess for a new IP, it doesn't really stand out on its own too much. I would say that the game looks pretty fun, but as a game that needs to be standing out on its own, at least gameplay wise, it doesn't really interest me too much. But I'm sure it's going to be a good game overall. Next they announced Monster Hunter World. For some reason, that's coming out for the Xbox One. Also, I mean, I guess props to Capcom for supporting multiple consoles, but I don't know. It just seems like that a Monster Hunter on the Xbox One console. Well, since Monster Hunter is mostly popular in Japan, it doesn't really make any sense to have an Xbox One version, and that's just making an Xbox One version for America and Europe, which I can see, a reason putting that game on that console. But the Monster Hunter World looks like a spin-off, uh, spin-off of the Monster Hunter series. It's different from Monster Hunter Try, and it looks pretty fun for a spin-off, and it also looks pretty good as well. But that doesn't need to be said. Uh, Next is the Shadow of Colossus remake, and well, I don't have a problem with remake or re-releases or remasters, whatever you want to call it. Uh, they're fine, every other company's doing it, but with Sony, it's a lot more uh, noticeable, if to put it nicely. Now, I don't have a problem with Sony making re-releases of their old games. I mean, like the Crash Bandicoot trilogy. I mean, I'm in favor of that one. But Shadow of Colossus, I mean, it looks pretty good and probably the best looking game out there so far. But I believe they have like a HD remaster in the PS3, and well, seeing this game, coming out for the PS4, and all the other games that been quote unquote remastered for the PS4, like the Uncharted trilogy and The Last of Us. Seeing that Sony like to remaster their old games a lot, it's kind of make me doubt just a little bit if we're not getting a PS4. If if all these PS4 games like Horizon, Days Gone, heck, maybe even this game may end up being on the PlayStation 5. I mean, I have no problems with company doing the remaster of their old games. I'm just saying that I think Sony's been doing that too much, and I think fans may eventually catch on. But back to the games in general. Next, they show off Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They have a story mode playable. I guess right after the press conference, so that's pretty cool. Call of Duty World War II to show that off, and then we get to the VR stuff. But before we do, actually, I just want to say that some of the stuff to show off, like the uh, Call of Duty trailers, the Marvel vs. Capcom trailer, and maybe even Days Gone to a certain extent, I think they spend too much time on that and showing it off. I mean, I'm all for a long press conference, but if you spend too much time on one game, it feels more like padding than expanding the excitement. And the VR stuff that they show off, I feel like that could have been cut down to a short montage trailer, but each game got like plenty of time to show off, like Skyrim VR, uh, the Star Child by Playful, which looks pretty interesting. I think you control this huge robot in the background, and you need to guide this little character in front of you to I guess the destination. And Final Fantasy 15 Master of the Deep, which is pretty much a fishing simulator. I'm surprised Sega hasn't done that themselves with the Sega Bass Pro Fishing game. But for the most part, I think they spend a little bit too much time on the VR stuff that could have been condensed to a like 3 to 5 minutes montage. But getting ready for the VR stuff, they did talk about God of War, the newest God of War game that's coming out in early 2018. The game looks great. The gameplay it seems different than the original God of War games. The original was much more fast paced, uh, more of an isometric view, while this one is more behind the back, the person. I guess kind of like Resident Evil 4. Combat seems a bit slow paced and maybe require more strategy in defeating enemies. Uh, I do appreciate Sony for trying something different with the franchise and not, basically creating the same game, but, with uh, better graphics and uh, updated enemies and boss battles. But I think, well, at least I fear that what they're doing with this God of War game may detract some of the hardcore God of War fans. But for the most part, the reception seems to be mostly positive. So maybe the hardcore God of War fans, are going to enjoy this game too. I was just thinking that they are straying away from the formula a bit too much, just a bit. Next is Detroit Become Human. There's been quite a bit of time on this one, showing off trailers and gameplay. For those who played Heavy Rain, it's pretty much that we make decisions that will affect different outcomes of the game. Uh, Not my cup of tea, but I can see, the appeal of that. Uh, Destiny 2, they showed off with exclusive content being announced, and that's pretty good. And the last game they showed off is the new Spider-Man game, and boy, does that look great. It's very fast paced. Uh, I guess the best way to describe it is if you want to make a God of War games for kids or teenager, I guess in this case, uh, the Spider-Man game would be, a great substitute. I mean, it was pretty action packed. A lot of stuff was happening, And even though I don't play licensed games, even around cartoon characters or superhero in this case, this is probably one game I'm actually considering buying. I do think Sony did leave the press conference on a high note. If I had to give it the conference an overall score, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. Uh, the show off with other good stuff. I think the main problem with Sony press conference is that I think they could have benefited of, cutting some of the time in half. They could have short, shorter trailers or show off a little bit of the gameplay, but not too much. If sometimes it felt more like padding, and it's especially noticeable in the VR stuff where most people don't care about VR, at least from the chat rooms that I was a part of, and I think that's really put some people to sleep. But overall, I think Sony did okay. I wasn't expecting it to be better than last year's press conference or the year before that, but for what they showed off, I think they they do okay. So 7.5 out of 10 is what I would give it overall. This is me, Bubba Degree, and stay tuned for my last E3 review of Nintendo's Spotlight, not press conference. So stay tuned for that.